All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Thoughters Debate Night. It's been a while, but we're all excited to get right back into it. So, tonight we're going to have a debate night, and hopefully we'll be able to stick to the normal format, which will be one person takes the pro, one person takes the con on the position, and then one person has a minute. I think we'll do a minute, yeah. A minute to make their case, and then the other person has a minute. Then they both have a minute for responding, and then it's opened up to the audience. If that doesn't work, we're going to move to more of a discussion format. So, that being said, we're going to go ahead with the first question, which is number 1. Are there moral arguments for veganism to be made? If so, are they legitimate?
That reminds me of a debate. I just watched a debate recently between, it's a very old debate. It was between Ask Yourself and Einstein. And basically Ask Yourself's justification, I believe, is whether the moral system is logically consistent, something like that.
Okay, so would you like to take the pro for that, VM?
Wait, are there moral? Well, yeah, there are. I mean, that's a really okay. Listen, the question is, there definitely are moral arguments to be made. Are they legitimate? Well, that's a different question.
That's one of the only questions I didn't write, by the way. So.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so VM, you'd like to take the pro on that one, and then who would like to take the con?
Well, yeah.
Anybody at all?
Carnies.
The con on whether or not they're legitimate, or the con on whether or not they aren't in argument?
Well, if the moral arguments aren't legitimate, then...
If you have a vegan god, a vegan vegetable god as your moral absolute, you can't make any truth claims about...
That's not true. Okay, let me ask you.
No, you need a vegan...
Noah, I hate meat. I hate all non-animal products. I only like to eat vegetables. Bang. That's a moral argument for veganism. Completely legitimate.
Well, where do you get your... Oh my god, you're echoing. I can't see.
Yeah, use your headset.
Yeah. Okay, I'm saying, how do you make any truth claims at all? And that's if you have a vegan carrot god. That doesn't even make sense to me, I'm sorry.
You only have to make truth claims if you subscribe to moral realism. It depends on your moral philosophy.
If you don't subscribe to moral realism, then you can't make moral arguments at all, because you don't even...
That's not true.
No, are you being facetious?
What are you talking about? If you
Of course
subscribe
not. This is a great question. This is very stimulating.
completely wrong, Noah. If you don't subscribe to moral realism, then you can make any justification for any moral system. Or if you subscribe to moral realism, you have to have some objective for morals. You have to have some basic.
I don't know. All I know is that veganism is gay, and that's all I know. So.
Fuck, you got me. Damn it.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there that nobody really takes this question seriously.
Yeah, it's a fucking stupid question.
It's a pretty much a non-issue, huh?
I don't think the 3 people who watch these videos actually think we're taking this seriously.
No, I don't think they are. Okay, so then do we have a motion to move forward? The next question.
I'm motioning towards that motion.
Okay, great. So I'm going to first that. Does anybody want to second it?
Wait, what's the first question?
Okay, we're moving on. Okay, number 2. Has classical liberalism been a net positive for the West?
I don't know how to answer this question without saying something that's going to get me in trouble, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
I would also take the affirmative stance.
Okay, I would have to agree that it has been a net positive for the West in like terms of individual rights and autonomy, and improving the quality of people's lives in the process. That I agree with. Of course, it has some of its cons, which could turn out to be either the natural result of classical liberalism, or you could say it was a subversion of classical liberalism. And that would be pretty much, to me, what I see of that is the voting system. And whenever the public discovers that they can vote themselves free stuff out of the public coffers, then they will do so. And that will be the end of a democracy, or in this case, I guess, a republic that has been turned sort of into a quasi-democracy, you could say. So I see a weakness in the voting system.
Robert Heinlein.
The what now?
You read
Yeah, he was a radical. Well, I don't know how radical he was, but he was a libertarian philosopher as well as a sci-fi writer.
Yeah, that's pretty unexpected for fucking science fiction.
No,
Yeah,
I haven't read it.
Philosopher.
Yeah, I like space and Space Invaders. Actually, it's the child consent.
Okay,
not
okay,
that
okay.
radical.
Let's not
He's
go.
not that radical.
Let's not edge into that territory.
I agree with Bravo's pretty much 100%.
Yeah, like I was just looking at some stats about voting, and I don't mean to be super controversial here, but I think voting patterns were pretty good when it was when voting was in the hands of like white men.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of like...
I don't need to be controversial, but let me say something that's openly controversial.
No, because I looked at like after the suffrage movement. Here I have
I don't want to be controversial, but I hate black.
Okay, so look at what I posted today at 8:07. Now this was the per capita state expenditures before and after the suffrage movement and women got the vote. Now I also did some research, which I can post some links.
To be fair, that's kind of misleading because the suffrage movement came around with the progressive movement. Like, government was spending a lot of... It's not necessarily a direct decline.
Yeah, and the study that I read, they took that into account. But the voting habits of women and the people that they did vote in kind of controlled for that variable.
I'd like to see the study.
Yeah, I'm gonna post it. Let's see. Where do I have it? Ah, here it is. Okay, and this is from harvard.edu. And I'm going to put in voice chat for people to look at it at their leisure. Well, I guess reliable enough. So, okay, so it says under that, given that the vast majority of spending for the fiscal year that coincided with year 0 was decided immediately before women were allowed to first vote, it appears that legislators started approving increased spending only after women began to vote. This timing suggests that the causation primarily runs from giving women the right to vote to a larger government as opposed to some left out variable, which resulted in both women's suffrage and an increased government spending. That's what it says below it. But I didn't read the whole entire study, so they might address that further, and there might be some emphasis taken off of women getting the right to vote. But so far, what we do know is that since let's see here. What we do know is that women vote in higher numbers than men, and they've done so in every election since 1964. Like, for instance, in the year 2000, 7.8 million more women voted than men did. But they also make up to, I think 60% of late deciders. Also to remember, they voted for prohibition. I mean, come on, guys, we can't have that. They're taking away our alcohol.
Bring back the 21st.
Sorry?
Bring back the 21st.
I don't know what you're
21st
saying.
Amendment, the amendment that outlawed alcohol.
Oh, yeah. And,
Is gay.
one of the big things that seems to go along with women's suffrage is their fear of raising children alone or not having enough resources. So steadily, their voting patterns have made it so that there are programs there in place to take care of women, but it's resulted in the state pretty much replacing men to a large extent now, especially in the black communities. So I think this is one of the cases where it shows that classical liberalism and giving autonomy to the individual to the extent of allowing them to make decisions about governmental policies through voting for candidates that will promise them the world is probably its weakest point. And I'm trying to figure out for myself whether or not this is a natural result of classical liberalism, or whether or not it's a subversion of it. And I'm weighing more heavily toward a result of it.
Yeah, I agree with that, because the thing about classical liberalism is it tells people it disencourages collectivization, and because of that, when certain groups are told to decollectivize, it puts them at a disadvantage that ends up, because other groups are going to collectivize, other groups around the world don't really care about classical liberalism, and by implementing it, or by having a culture or a people that, well, okay, I have to go now, sorry.
All right. Well, thanks for your input, Noah. We'll be seeing you back soon, I think, after you're done eating.
Yeah,
Okay.
This isn't much of a debate.
Yeah, it's not. It usually goes into a sort of discussion format, but that's because I think we're all fairly. We're fairly.
On the same page here.
Yeah. We're all well, and also we're fairly. I don't know. We know each other very well, so it's kind of like we already know each other's views.
Personally, Noah, I would like to ask you why.
Noah's gone.
Or no, sorry, Bravos.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you. Why exactly you think that expanding government spending is an example of opening, well, more specifically, opening up a system to expand government spending is a way of expanding individual rights? Well, because obviously you have monarchies before that, and a lot of them got to be quite oppressive. But I would probably argue that under monarchies there was a greater degree of personal freedom to an extent.
Yeah. So you're asking why do I make a distinction?
No, I'm asking why are you saying that it was that it was a net positive for individual rights?
Oh, okay. Well, from what I know of history about monarchy, there was a large degree of, say, for instance, religious persecution, and also there were hindrances.
Religious persecution. So first of all, about the religious persecution, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But that just applies to any society under any system of government.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid to argue in favor of a system. Well, like looking historic, like let's say, for instance, you advocate for dictatorship, and saying, well, under dictatorships, a lot of them are genocidal. Therefore, what you're advocating for is
genocide. Okay.
But rather, it's inherent to historic history.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens that the parties, the people that put them in power, have to be genocidal. It just happened that monarchies existed at a time. People demanded for a religious person.
So what you're saying is you're not tying the results of monarchy to monarchy itself, but rather the culture or what was decided at the time?
Okay. Here's an interesting thing about monarchy and religion. There was this thing. I forgot exactly what the name of it was, but it was basically saying it was a principle in Christianity that said that it was essentially the same as the mandate of heaven from China. Saying rulers get a certain ability to rule based off of whether or not God wills it to be so. And so and this was basically a way of saying, oh, monarchs are only viable as long as God says they are. But the problem is the monarchs took this and flipped it on its head, for example, and said, no, this means because I am in power, that I am divine right by God. So you cannot challenge me, because by extension you're challenging God, and you can see this under any system of government. This is really just one example. Really, what you're looking at is a monarch using a government using a system that was meant to restrict itself to expand itself by religion, which I would argue is the same thing the U.S. government does with, say, the Constitution. Because, well, isn't it convenient that they just recently found out that Article 14 says that gay people can get married, and you can't discriminate based off of that? Isn't that convenient?
Isn't that just convenient?
Okay, so what you're saying is that it's not monarchy or it's not a republic in itself, but it's what you've put in place in order to limit the power of the government.
What I'm saying is you're taking the thing that the government. Okay, so religion was originally trying to be used in this example to limit the power of government. but then government flipped it on its head to expand its own power.
Right. And do you think the same thing could happen in the United States?
Well, not with religion, not at this time, but I believe the government has been doing the exact same thing, and to a much greater degree under classical liberalism than under monarchy.
Okay. So you're saying it's been taking
Just not with religion.
So you're saying at first the principles of classical liberalism were used in order to protect the people, but now those principles have been used by the government for their own benefit.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. And so would you say that that would be the ultimate result of classical liberalism, or are you saying that's a subversion of it?
Well, I'm saying that's just the natural result of government, and I would say because of how classical liberalism is structured, it offers more of a way for the government to exploit the people than under monarchy.
Okay. So it seems like probably what happened in both cases was that the system that was used to protect the people, they eventually gave up or allowed the certain characteristics of that system to then go over to the government. Is that what you're saying?
It's not that they're allowing it to happen. It's that the government, basically does a hostile takeover of it and convinces people who are generally not all that smart that, oh no, this is what it actually means.
Okay, so in the case of monarchy, how would you say they did that?
Well, I just explained it. Thomas Aquinas and other various Catholic priests were saying, hey guys, government needs special privileges from God to do what it does. And then the monarchs say, oh yes, we have divine right. Look at what all these Catholic priests are saying. Because at this point, everybody's Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an example.
Okay. So basically, the principles would state that the power rests with the people, but then those ideologies can be changed to the power rests with the state.
Yeah, well, because if the power rests with the people, all I have to do is control the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Argue that the government does a very good job at that.
So what you're saying that in general, the problem would be that these are both just natural results of what comes with having a government.
Yes, natural results of what comes with having a government, but at the same time, I think because so let's say classical liberalism versus monarchy.
Can we move on to another question?
Well, VM, you're a monarchist, so would you be able to defend that statement that monarchy and classical both share the same flaws?
No, they do not share the same flaws.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying they share the same flaws.
It's a really stupid statement.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm laying out the groundwork for why classical liberalism has significantly worse flaws than monarchy.
It does.
Okay, but in the case of limitations put upon the government. Well, I'm not for classical liberalism per se. I would say I'm lean actually more towards monarchy at this point. But
alright, so we all agree in monarchy. Let's get to the next question.
I don't think that was said. But yeah, sure. Let's go to the next question. Okay.
Say aye if you don't think a monarchy is woke. Everybody agrees. Your silence speaks volumes.
Exactly. Okay. So 3. Should the government regulate the supply of labor in their country?
I don't understand that question. What does that mean?
It means you reduce the amount of people that are working in your country.
Why?
Well, like for instance, I believe Chavez, he made sure that certain immigrants couldn't come into the country because they would cut the labor wages.
Do you want us to advocate for Chavez?
No, not for Chavez, but the principle that you cannot allow the labor supply to expand to the point where your domestic workers aren't making a living wage.
Brothers, let me explain to you this way. More people, more taxpayers, more moolah for the government, more money for you and me.
Yeah, but that's assuming that the jobs are there.
More money, bigger military, bigger empire, more order.
Yeah, but the
More order?
opportunities
That's
have to
something a few
expand
levels
as
away from
well.
oil.
More oil. Yeah, that's right. Am I right, guys? And more
Yeah.
investment for business. More
Okay.
More technocracy.
technology.
Okay. Yeah.
More space military.
I see what you guys are hinting at, but do you guys agree that if you allow a whole lot of a large supply of labor to come into the country, that it won't undercut your domestic workers?
Well, firstly, what kind of government would cut down on the workers? It's such a retarded decision from the government.
Well, not cut down on the workers, but prohibit people to come in and then create a huge oversupply in labor.
It's like an imperialist monarch, like refusing to buy rifles. Any nation for rifles.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, what I'm saying is that, like, in a government, you don't have idealized yourself to people that want to further their agenda. And they can't further their agenda from a government perspective. If their agenda, because if they don't take more people into the country, because it makes the government less powerful, less taxpayers, the government has less money, it's unable to do as many utilities.
Okay.
For their agenda.
Do you think there's a do you think there's a saturation point where let's say there's a peak saturation point of opportunity which the labor supply cannot fill, so then you'd have an oversupply of labor?
Yeah, but then you start to get the supply goes back because people won't come to the country if you just say fuck off.
Yeah, sure, but what if the people that are coming in are continually undercutting your domestic workers?
Yo, have you cucks read that one book by the Jew?
Rothbard?
No, not that Jew. It's a socialist Jew this time. Not a woke Jew, a gay Jew. No, was he even freaking Jewish? Was Karl Marx Jewish? Serious question.
Karl Marx was, yeah, he was a German Jew.
Yeah,
Filthy Jew. Okay.
Hey, you're being recorded, Mr. C.
Jews disown Marx.
I don't care. I'm Jewish enough.
Okay.
I'm talking about John Steinbeck. Yeah. Grapes of Wrath. I'm talking about Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Basically, what he talks about is, well, for one thing, he was a socialist, so maybe you should take it as a grain of
I
salt.
don't fucking give a shit. Orwell was a socialist. Einstein was a socialist. I don't know. It was a good book.
Have you read Grapes of Wrath? Have you read Grapes of Wrath? It's freaking socialist propaganda. After you've read enough of Marx. No,
Okay,
it is
can we get to the
propaganda.
point? Can we get to the point?
It's worse than non-aggression pact.
There's no non-aggression hentai. I mean, I swear, as an ANCAP.
God, don't you hate aggressive hentai?
Oh, that's the worst kind.
Okay, so what point were you trying to make, Mr. C?
Well, in the non-aggression book about hentai that John Steinbeck wrote, he basically talks about how what you're going to end up having is a bunch of disenfranchised workers who come there seeking money and wealth, but then when they don't get it, they're like, well, crap. Now we're here and we're all starving and we're hungry. Let's do socialism, and then they flip over. Just deport them? Yeah, after you open up and encourage them
Well,
to come,
yeah, but at that point, wouldn't you be regulating the supply of labor in your country?
No. Government doesn't do it. We have privatized helicopter forces.
Oh, okay. I see this question isn't going to be taken seriously, so let's move on to number 4. Do the ends justify the means?
Depends on the ends. It depends on the means.
Yes.
Okay. So could you give me a scenario where the ends do not justify the means, and then a scenario where the ends do justify the means?
Nuking all of Moldova to save my kitten. That's an example where it wouldn't.
Okay.
And where it would, lying to my grandmother to get a cookie.
Ah, okay. I see what you're saying.
That's where it would.
Well, you see, Mr. C, that would be a sin, and no sins are allowed in the Christian worldview. Okay, sir?
That's from a Minecraft server.
Exactly.
Just put unironically.
So basically, what you're saying, it just has to do with the degree of morality involved in the ends.
Yes, exactly.
And also, another thing is that while they do, it's also from a historical context, it can be very misused. Like it can be a very misused thing. Like, let's say, for instance, well, the suffering of 10 people could be saved if one died. But then let's say you just ignore this other example where all 11 could be saved. In the latter, in the former, the John Stewart ends to justify the means, but that's only if you ignore other options.
So we're basically saying this is a subjective thing?
Yeah, very subjective.
This is insanely. This should be taken on a case-by-case basis, and if you don't, you're stupid.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, let's go to number 5.
Yeah, you are stupid, Bravos. Accept it.
Accept it.
I will never accept this, but I will say this. I'll meet you halfway. I'm stupid on some things and I'm smart on others. Okay,
wow,
so
that's
now.
a very case-by-case basis way of taking it. I mean.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's at least it's consistent. Okay, so number 5. Can Western civilization... Oh my gosh. Okay, so number 5. Can Western civilization still survive if the founding stock becomes a minority?
Wait, what does that mean? Like the white people?
Yeah, okay, so who is the founding stock of Western civilization?
The white people.
Okay, the white people.
Founding stock is all dead.
So if...
They died hundreds of years ago.
But founding stock doesn't mean certain individuals existing within a certain time. It's like a genetic lineage. That's what stock means. So, can white people, can Caucasians become a minority and Western civilization still survive?
You somehow figured out to turn every fucking question into a race question.
I didn't. This is Noah's. These are Noah's. I just added a few of my own.
Bravo. Noah's a freaking Nazi.
Noah, the freaking classical liberal, is a Nazi.
Yeah, of course. So what do you guys think? Do you think we can, if we have a bunch of African Americans and mestizos running the country, do you think it would be able to survive?
Yeah, of course.
Technocratic propaganda.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's basically, that applies to every group of people. It's not like white people have an inherent understanding of classical liberalism that other races don't. You just have to brainwash them with the right propaganda.
There we go.
Okay,
and when I say propaganda, I don't mean that as a demeaning term. Propaganda is what any government system uses to propagate itself.
So, Mr. C, when you say that, do we have any examples where we have where certain groups of people that historically haven't been able to implement those ideas, after being given those ideas, have then been able to consistently apply them?
Germans after World War II.
Germans don't. That doesn't count within the.
No, we're not talking. Yeah, but are you trying to tie this to genetics? Because the Germans were very, very collectivist for the Nazi regime.
Yeah, but I'm basically.
Brainwashed with propaganda.
Yeah, but we've already made the distinction of white people. They fall under that.
Oh, so white people don't count. It's all the other races that count.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to say. Yeah, I guess you could say Anglos, but. Yeah, let's include them. Let's include. Okay, I'll allow that because Anglos basically are the ones that founded America. So
Anglos are the worst, to be honest.
Well,
you should abolish Anglos.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Germans aren't Anglos, so technically you could use that.
So Nazis. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, mostly Anglos greater than that.
Okay. Now, what about say Asians?
Asians
have a higher IQ than white.
Yeah, but they're not really. I guess they're okay enough. I mean, Japan's pretty cool.
Dude, Japan is like more individualist than like fucking like any country.
No, it's not.
It's like an ANCAP utopia.
Japan is not an ANCAP utopia.
Go there, get any form of hentai, no consent, bang.
Okay, let's because this is gonna get into edgy alt-right territory. When Noah comes back, let's just call him a Nazi for putting forward this question and then move on to 6. So, 6, is terrorism ever justified?
Yes.
Okay, now when is terrorism justified? Can you give me a scenario?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
So if you don't know, then how could you give me a affirmative on that?
What's the question?
Is terrorism ever justified?
Oh, yeah.
only when you're establishing Israel. That's the only time.
You can make a pretty solid argument.
There's a difference between war and terrorism.
Yeah, but like you still pass it. Like let's say this. Let's say that you had some fucking like I don't know, like regime, like the worst regime on earth. It was and let's say like you're a terrorist, you could destroy that regime.
Yeah, but doesn't terrorism mean like also harming civilian structures and civilians themselves?
The definition of terrorism is literally just a violence towards a political goal.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that seems like pretty broad, because that would mean that even war would be terrorism.
The founding fathers were terrorists.
Yeah, the founding fathers were terrorists. That is true. That is actually a really good point. And were they justified in doing so?
Yeah, obviously.
Well, I mean, think about it. Only 3% of the American population actually participated in the war. All the rest either were sided with the crown or they just were apathetic.
Oh, the fucking revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, so were they really actually vindicated in engaging in terrorism? I mean, they actually manufacture the propaganda themselves.
The Americans were terrorists.
Are you telling me that propaganda exists, Bravos? I'm surprised.
No, I'm just telling you that it was a war, but I'm just saying it was a war manufactured by the founding fathers and basically for the upper echelon of the American colonial society.
You fucking kicked me out of music. Who's doing this?
It's not
I don't know.
So which question is this?
Okay, right now we're on 6, and you guys, Noah, can you take the ball and run with it, because I have to do something. I'll be back.
Okay, so who's taking pro and who's taking con?
To the British Empire.
No, you.
So who's taking pro and who's taking con?
I guess you could say I got John locked.
Shut up, please.
I guess you could say I'm Hayek.
Hold on, so who's taking each side?
I actually like Hayek. Yeah, we've kind of thrown out the format.
It's okay. Let's go to the next question. Should free speech be an absolute?
What does that mean?
I think that you should be able
what
to
they have
support
in-
Hitler and Stalin at the same time.
Basically, what they have in the
That's
United
both
States
for
now.
life.
That's what I mean.
I unironically support this.
I unironically support every political philosophy known to man, except for Max Stirner.
Dude, that's pretty epic. The ego has chosen that Max Stirner is gay.
I support every political philosophy except Max Stirner. Mr. C or something 2018.
My fellow property spook.
Hello, my fellow spooks. Oh crap! I just jumped in a ravine. Playing Mike. Okay.
Boy, howdy, that's one hell of a ghost story you tell.
So, are we being recorded?
Yes, we are. We're being recorded by Bravos right now. I'm playing Minecraft.
Don't say racist things.
So then, why am I here then?
You're not.
I don't know.
No, but are we throwing out the format, or are we sticking with this format?
I don't know. I think we kind of threw it out a while ago. So what was the question again? I forgot.
Should free speech be an absolute? I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yes, obviously.
Okay, so next is, will capitalism implode and make way for socialism?
Yeah, what kind of fucking question is that?
No, that's not my question. Let's just to clarify. First and last question were not mine.
Yeah, Concha Bravos, you freaking con.
Did he honestly think that we'd get a socialist in here? Because if he had a plan to, I would enjoy that. That would be fun.
You a socialist Christian?
Too bad we can't bring Ome in here. She would scream, so she'd be like, "Oh, you're making me cry. Oh, I'm gonna."
I highly doubt Ome understands Marx's dialectic.
Rams is a huge socialist.
I don't think Ome understands English, honestly.
I don't think Ome has read Hegel.
I don't think
I haven't even read Hegel.
I'm saying.
Hegel.
Anyways, I don't want to be publicly on video talking ill about somebody. I think that because that's not the kind of person I am. I like to spread positivity and love. So, can we please remove that?
Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And We need to.
Did somebody say he-gal? Are you a he-galitarian?
You put
Opposed to
Martin
an egalitarian?
like, picks it up. He's like, "Wow, this is some good shit. Wow, communism."
It's like, wow, I'm gonna take a page out of his book, and by that I mean I'm just gonna take the whole book, plagiarize it,
Can someone? Okay, let's
slap
make
some communism on it.
okay? Let's like spend like 10 minutes. We have to take every ideology and make a justification for the existence of it. Like every ideology.
Every ideology.
All right, step 1: monarchy.
Monarchy. It's a much better system than liberal democracy because it encourages low time preference.
Okay, 2: communism.
Free stuff. I like free stuff. Everybody should really just work together, to be honest, because working together is how humans did it for absolutely forever. And if everybody were to work together, utopia could technically be possible.
Okay, 3: socialism.
Exactly what I said before.
Have a government, everybody votes it in, Ayn Rand.
Yeah, exactly what I said before.
All right, step 5. Primitivism.
Primitivism? Honestly, we should just return to nature. This is also an argument for fascism.
Fascism.
What I just said.
Yeah, but like, you know, it's kind of weird when you get those techno-fascists and they're like, well, I haven't read Evolve.
Alright, so what question are we on now?
We're just picking up things at this point.
Apparently, we've thrown away the format. I'm not sure about this. I have not been moderating this whole time. I've been eating, so I don't know.
Well, last time I checked, we were on Is Terrorism Ever Justified? And then I gave you the ball, and then you dropped it.
This is what everybody told me, so I wasn't sure. I didn't want to be, you know, the guy who
Yeah, no, what an asshole.
Anyways.
Okay.
No, I thought we were not doing it.
So what was the general consensus on Is Terrorism Ever Justified? And we were talking about the Founding Fathers?
Yes, I would say yes.
That's in the context of Israel.
Okay, so yeah, if we're establishing Israel, it is justified. Okay, 7. Should free speech be an absolute?
Oh yeah, we agreed on that. We all agreed on that.
Okay, will capitalism implode and make way for socialism?
We all agree that's a terrible question.
That's actually like a legitimate question among socialists and like
Are you talking
communists.
about like Marxist theory about like the haves and the have-nots?
Yeah, like basically they'll point to graphs and see like, look, the global GDP is like slowly collapsing.
The term have-nots was an Alinskyite theory. Because when Alinsky wrote Rules for Radicals, he wanted it to be non-partisan, so we just used generic terms like haves and have-nots.
Oh, yeah, and also just want to add, like, you know, that bullshit, like those external economists are like, the U.S. economy is going to implode in the next 10 years. Make sure to save up your money by watching this 50-minute video that will cost you $10 an hour.
I also want to point out that Alinsky was woke.
Yeah, it was pretty woke.
I like Alinsky, unironically. He's my favorite socialist.
Okay, so basically when a socialist comes to you and shows you a graph of like United States, like national GDP slowly I would say disintegrating, they would say, or it's basically going down, what would you say to them?
I would say, what is your opinion of Ludwig von Mises? And if they say anything positive, I will immediately do whatever they say.
Okay, that's not really an answer to my question.
All my favorite people are Jewish.
Okay, that's not really an answer to my question.
No, it's not, but I'm saying this unironic.
By the way, I just want to say, I just thought, what if we had a primitivist technocracy? Like, you have, like, all the, like, tribal leaders, right? And we pick them based on how ooga booga they can ooga booga. Okay, the best rock thrower becomes
Rocks are technology, you idiot.
So when someone like Communist Boy comes on here and starts showing you all these statistics, what do you say to Mr. Communist Boy?
Go fuck yourself.
I would say that
I don't say anything to him. I get him to talk with my friend Mr. AR-15.
Okay.
I thought you weren't trying to say anything.
Alright, and with that, we're going to conclude debate night. Everybody, thank you for watching.
Thank you for joining. This was a massive waste of time, and we got nothing done.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had 2 jokers with us here, but next time we'll see if we can make some more progress. Okay, thank you for watching.